Chris Hoy.
So first, I just want to ask, Sarah, is your drink okay? Do you need a refill?
No, I think it's okay.
All right, I'll get you a refill if you need it. Thank you. Secondly, I mean, we talked about this a little earlier. I mean, you touched on it, right? But I think I'd really like to hear all three of you, your opinions on this, and that, you know, when you have a recruiter that's within a company's organization in the recruiting function, and they have a very powerful brand, and they leave, right? And they take their brand with them. I'd really like to hear a little bit more about, does that company have almost a responsibility to fill that gap? Should they worry about that gap? Is there anything they need to address there? And, you know, we've all had this conversation back and forth, and maybe it's a little deeper than that as well, but who owns a piece of that, right? Even though it's their personal brand and they've been pimping that company for years, or they've been promoting that company, or all of the wonderful things and the merits that might bring you there, when they leave, should there be concern, should there be fear, and should there be action afterwards?
You speak with such knowledge on that. Almost
is that
as
weird?
if it is kind of weird, you know? Sarah.
I theoretically thought of if this ever happened. And I think from a couple perspectives, what a company has to be careful of doing is not trying to replace it with another rock star right away and taking somebody who, you know, just like, oh, wait, people know this person too, I'm going to slot them into this role just so we have that same type of thing. I think you almost have to kind of like mourn that. I mean, especially with somebody that is very visible, you know, very out there, very well known, and you almost have to bring somebody else in to do something slightly different versus replacing that person, because that person does have a really strong relationship and tie with a community. However, whatever that community is, it could be a community of recruiters, it could be a community of vendors, it could be a community just of other candidates, but it's really being nice about it and not being kind of a jerk of a company.
You agree or disagree?
Neither. I mean, Chris is raising a huge question. It's something that we all need to work with, deal with. I don't know if we all have the answers just yet. Yeah. But as I was mentioning, brand is portable now. And if you've got a high performer who's got a terrific brand, you've got to manage them closely. You've got to give them what they want. Okay? Are people easily replaced? Can you replace one brand with another? I don't have the answer for it. Do you have an answer, Chris? Have you thought it through? I mean, you asked the question. So I give it back, or John's going to answer that question.
No, I think Eric and I were having it. I mean, I have a similar experience, and I agree with Sarah. You can't plug in right away. You can't go into mourning either. You kind of have to move on. Right. But I think as recruiters too, we have to be ethical, and we as well can't retaliate and you know, go after. That's how we're going to ding ourselves in the long run. And we can't go out and I think we have to be mindful of that we have to be mindful of our own personal brands, and that we've got this great thing, and that we represented a company for such a long time, and we have to be very careful with what we say and how we say it in the marketplace, because we were associated with it for such a long time. Right. And that's what I meant by that.
I think from a company standpoint, I think we see lots of execution where the person who left handles themselves with professionalism. Right. They go above and beyond. They make sure that there's still a referrer of talent to that organization. I think where the wake-up call is on the company side. When you lose someone in your organization, that could be a very positive thing for you to say, you know what, we developed this person to the point where the best thing for us to do was to set them free, wish them well, send them out there. I mean, imagine a proactive press release of someone's progress. They outgrew your organization. Yeah. That's way out here, I know, in my little euphoric view of the world. But why is it? If our people are our number one asset, why did we let that person go, right? You mean the best way for them to grow was to leave my organization? Then what we do is we set back a boomerang strategy. Maybe, just maybe, one day we'll get them back. Why couldn't we keep them, right? As long as we keep worrying about replacing them or the fear of that, instead of setting them free, right? Yeah. The grass is not always greener. I can't tell you how many people I get back in my organization who had left at one point. But the wake-up call there is to look at it in that angle. Neil.
Mike, you got to work on your poker face a little bit there. That last part.
Disagree with that.
Yeah.
Not interested.
I mean, I think that one of the interesting things is the way we're talking about brand right now is a lot of ones and zeros. Either I've got brand or I don't have brand. Right. I've got corporate brand or I have personal brand, or I don't. And I think for a lot of people out there, they're somewhere in the middle, right? I've just started to build my brand. I'm on Twitter. Maybe I have a great reputation, but I haven't figured out how to transfer that. Like, I think the audience would like to hear some advice and some thoughts on, putting the building blocks together. How do you empower, let's say a company has one person with a great brand inside of a company. How do you start to take those lessons and transport them to other people, other representatives on the team? I think that'd be a good one.
Great question.
When I got the social media bug, it was probably 18 months ago, and I jumped full feet, full throttle. I've done 5 things. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, my own blog, right? Okay? And what was the 5th thing? Video, YouTube. And trying to integrate that strategy. But I think the key point is tell your story. Write articles, get published, and with what's happening now, you can do self-publish. So tell your story and broadcast it out.
Tell your story, tell your company's story. Right? I think sometimes we have these brands that are more powerful than we know, and you can just pick up on evangelizing your company's message, not necessarily creating your own, just using yourself as a channel to this phenomenal brand that you're a part of. A lot of people are, where do I start? Start with the rhetoric you have, right?
And conversations, engage, just have we use this new term engagement. All it means is if somebody asks you a question, answer them, talk back to them. And I have sat in some social media sessions recently where they tell you, push, push, push. Just keep sending out content. Keep sending out content. You'll grow SEO. You'll get more stuff back. Just push, push, push. And that doesn't really help you develop either your personal brand or your profession or your corporate brand. It's really about the engagement because, as we keep talking about, it's all about the people. So people want to feel a connection with your organization. They want to feel a connection with your company. They want to know what it's really like to be there, what the people are really like. And sometimes that's as simple as just answering a question that they might pose on, Twitter or your Facebook page, or even via email or LinkedIn. Or, for me, I think one of the early things that I did, obviously this was way back, there used to be, the forums out there. I started by just going into forums. I mean, I was little. I was like 22, and I'm like, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And I started just going into forums and started engaging with people that were VPs and, director level people. And I wasn't afraid to give them my opinion and ask them their opinion and have those dialogue and have those conversations. And I think for anybody or any company, LinkedIn has a great forum. I mean, there's forums all over that has a lot of conversations going on. You just have to jump in and do it.
And I also think you have to do your research. Like you have to go into this as a student as well. And you have to read. There's a lot of great talent blogs out there. There's FOT. Lori Rudiman just wrote about this on her thing. Hi, Lori. Cynicalgirl.com. Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Why do we know or care that she's at the dentist? What is wrong with us? Right? Okay.
Well, but that's what's unique about
she's my friend.
This whole thing in social media. Like that's how we all kind of met in some weird way, and it was all because we were curious and we had this innate curiosity and we were students and we read and we write and we tweet and we listen. But I think it's really about studying and listening as well.
Yeah. Listening.
That's it.
Don't think that your brand is built just off of social.
Oh, no.
Right? I think this is excellence daily. This is returning calls. Start with your candidate pool.
Yeah.
You want to build your brand, answer the phone calls that come into your voicemail. Right? Remember when our whole job as recruiters was designed to get the phone to ring? Now when people call us, we're like, who is it? What do they want? Oh, they don't know me like that. Take a voicemail. Send me an email, right? We don't, some of us, I'm making wide sweeping statements. I know you love to have the phone ring. But at some point, start with that. It's accessibility. And if the accessibility is this, a phone, it's really just
Isn't that the first social media tool?
Amen, right? So we are almost out of time on this, and it's one of those topics that can go forever, and I think is another role. But we did have one. I just wanted to pick up this question coming from Jenny Devon with us all day on this, because you brought it up as LinkedIn chats, and Jenny is the 3rd most connected woman on LinkedIn in the world, and she poses the question: what are some tactics recruiters can do to build their personal brand other than LinkedIn profile? So I think it piggybacks on Neil's question here, but do you have anything very specific that we can do besides what we just said?
Connect locally.
Ooh.
Connect locally. The other thing that I always did when I was actually recruiting is when a candidate came through, if they weren't a good fit, I still had a conversation and I would maybe tell them, hey, you're not really going to be the right fit, but here's some tips I would say on your resume, and maybe you should look at company XYZ, and if you need me to, I'll send this resume over to somebody over there because I know the recruiter there. And so I was always about opening doors for people and helping people out, even if that meant sending them to a competitor, because I knew they would always remember me and my company and want to come back.
John.
I can't add on that. That's awesome. I mean, connect locally and network.
Final word, Mr. Raymer.
Write articles, get them published, and call up reporters and get your name published, whether it be in papers, magazines, get quoted. That'll help build your brand also.
Awesome. Well, I've been watching an awful lot of political debates, so I'll apologize in advance for my rant. It is election season. So thank you all very much for this. Good insight for us. The dialogue should continue. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back with more RecruitFest. Hope you're enjoying the afternoon. Thank you.